Memory transcription subject: Governor Tava of the Venal Republic. Date: Standardized Human Time, October 10th, 2136.
Alarms blared from the cockpit and my fur stood on end. Maya's head snapped up from its snoozing position. The human needed only a fraction of a second to process the stimuli. The Secretary General jumped into full alert mode, scrambling toward the ship's helm. It was incredible how quickly the Predator brain kicked into fighting mode. Our transport was accompanied by a 10-ship UN escort, which was armed to the teeth. We planned on skirting the edge of FDL comms range and blasting a long-range transmission toward the Arxor station's coordinates. There shouldn't be a high chance of conflict, since we were keeping a substantial distance. Still, the humans came prepared to protect their leader.
Status?
Maya asked, his voice icy calm.
What's all this about?
The Terran pilot grimaced. Massive formation on an intercept course, about 2 milliparsecs out. Looks like patrollers of an Arxor make.
Held them at all frequencies.
Already done. No reply, sir, but our sensors picked up an attempted target lock.
Abort mission. Adjust our course at once.
Too late. We can't shift our heading quick enough in hyperspace. Shit, I don't belong anywhere near a conflict, I panicked. Why didn't the humans assume this station location was a trap? I guess desperation overrode their paranoia. It seemed the reptilians weren't as keen on talking as the captive ones posited. The fake promise of an alliance was exactly the sort of deception the Federation claimed was inherent. If the Arxor managed to subdue us, I might have to take drastic measures. I hoped I didn't pass out at the first sign of boarding. My head felt woozy, like I'd been twirling around for hours. Maya's eyes widened, and he caught me as I lurched forward. It was all I could do to coax the slightest motions out of my muscles, as the terror of becoming Arxor livestock intensified. The UN leader pushed me back into my seat and strapped me into the harness with steady hands. Please, Elias, I can't. Please kill me if they get on board, I pleaded. The Secretary General combed a hand through his grey hair.
Nobody is going to die. We'll figure a way out.
No, but promise to kill me if that time comes. My words tumbled out in hyperventilating gasps, and I caressed my searing heart. You have no idea what they'll do to me, especially when they figure out who I am. Please.
I understand what you're saying. Everything is going to be fine, but I need you here with...
A colossal jolt radiated through the ship's frame. Maya doubled over, clutching his temples. Profanity spewed from the human's mouth. That was quite the deviation from his typical composure. It felt wrong to see such a stalwart man roll onto his side and curl up into a fetal position. His cheeks had turned bright red, and his binocular eyes watered. Is Maya okay? He looks like he is asphyxiating. I've never seen a human's skin that color. The effects of the FTL disruptor pulse hit me a millisecond later. I felt my ears pop like I was in a plummeting elevator, and the discomfort only escalated. I whimpered in pain as I sensed the fluid sloshing in the auditory canals. The positive was it snapped me out of my fear, but the existing dizziness was compounded. My surroundings were an undulating haze.
Fucking hell!
The Secretary General grunted.
Shields! Shields!
The Terran leader shifted onto his stomach and began to crawl toward the cockpit. He tapped his earlobe, still bothered by the ringing sensation. He then shook his head, as vigorously as a rain-drenched fennel. I didn't think any human had been on the receiving end of a disruptor pulse before. This crew was the first to experience it. Our ship's pilot raised an unsteady arm. The disorienting effects inhibited his coordination, and he couldn't jab his finger on the right button. There was no concerned chatter from our escorts. Their bearings must be rattled too. The greys had rendered us defenseless. Silver streaks closed in on us from a diagonal heading. Orange light encompassed an escort vessel's hull as the Arxor swooped in. The reptiles seemed to be taunting us by drawing so close. More blinding beams accelerated around us and drilled into the UN craft from flawless angles. This was a beatdown, not a fight. I struggled for my own panting. Elias, get a firearm and shoot me. Please, I beg you. A disgruntled Maya struggled to his hind legs. His hair and attire were more disheveled than I ever recalled. The dignitary was painstaking with his grooming and persona. His reddened skin glistened with water, and dark stains spread under his arms. Human sweat had a way of making them look slimy and feral.
Hell the Arxer again, but with a video preview. Do it! The Secretary General barked.
The helmsman stiffened.
Are you mad, sir? That's going to be a little difficult now.
Our pilot slammed a fist on the control column, swerving away from a flock of mini-missiles. I guess those were designed to squeeze between chinks of armor or dodge interceptors. Our ship listed to one side as several hits battered our underbelly. The navigator howled some curses. Maya shook the other man's shoulder.
Open a channel! Do exactly what the fuck I said!
Yes, sir. The Secretary General placed his hands on the console, steadying himself as kinetics pelted our armor. Our allies were trying to intervene, but several were otherwise occupied. Maya gritted his teeth and turned his eyes right toward the camera lens. An Arxel ship banked around us and pivoted to a head-on view of the cockpit. Its railguns glowed as it prepared to finish us off. My bloodstream was flooded with nauseating chemicals. These were the last moments of consciousness I would ever have. To my bewilderment, the enemy craft hesitated. Its weapons powered down, and it lost interest in our staring contest. The other Greys also backed off, leaving their Terran targets time to recuperate. They circled back to their jump point and watched us from the increased distance.
Greetings on behalf of the Arxor Dominion.
The throaty voice in the speakers was accompanied by a visual of a menacing creature. The sight of his yellowed fangs was revolting.
Our sincerest apologies, brothers. We do not mean you any harm.
Maya heaved a flustered sigh.
Why did you attack us? We held you as soon as we saw you.
Your subspace trail originated from Venlo Prime, so we didn't realize it was you.
The Predator croaked.
You were heading straight for a key foothold of ours. Listening to the prey beg is a waste of time. I'm sure you understand.
It didn't escape my notice how the Secretary General's shoulders tensed. He inhaled a few purposeful breaths, as though trying to restrain his temper. I was aghast at the civility the Arxer was displaying to the humans. Nothing directed at us ever suggested this demeanor was within their capacity. Even as they are polite to the Terrans, they are bashing Venlil. They would never agree to a truce with us.
We were heading for your listening station,
Maya growled.
Humanity wishes to negotiate terms for our species' interactions. And we have some intelligence to offer.
Its eyes narrowed to slits, inspecting the primate's form.
Speak. I am listening. Identify yourself.
I'm Secretary General Elias Maya, leader of the United Nations. Do we have the authority to negotiate on behalf of your species?
Authority over this sector. I'm Chief Hunter Isiv. This transmission is being recorded, so I will relay anything you say through the proper channels.
My difficulty in collecting my thoughts was frustrating, but this was marked improvement from being fired upon. It was unsurprising to learn Arxor labeled their highest-ranking officers as Chief Hunters. Their society revolved around the systematic slaughter of other sapiens. Did the humans really think they could change that? This was a foolish mistake on my part. The Venel had no part in any of this, even if we were loyal to the Terrans.
That will suffice,
the Secretary General decided.
Humanity thought you would be interested to learn 7 species that have relocated their military assets. In other words, their territory is practically unguarded.
Is's tongue flitted between its fangs as it salivated at the prospect of a raid. The sinister gleam in those eyes was enough to make me question humanity's plan. How could my friends call such a malicious assault on the Crocodle's head? Maya knew precisely what would happen to the civilians on world. It was a low move, even with the stakes.
Also, there are 17 other species who have mobilized a couple ship units,
the human leader continued, without any sign of guilt.
Perhaps that will weaken a few key regions, or result in their forces being spread thin. The first 7 names will be easiest, but it's your choice.
The Arxor offered a scratchy chuckle.
Send the data over, Maya. I take it these assets have relocated to attack you. You wouldn't give information for free if it wasn't in your interest.
It doesn't matter, but I do have a request in return.
If you want to ally with us, you need only ask.
The human leader paused. He turned around to face the cabin and waved for me to join him. I shook my head in the negative, not wanting the Predator to see my presence. The entire dialogue was going to crumble the second my face appeared on screen. Maya crossed his arms, tapping his foot with impatience. The stubborn human was going to wait until I joined him, one way or another. Blood roared in my ears as my shaking claws unclipped the harness. My legs felt like they were made of jelly. I slunk up beside the primate with my tail between my legs. The Secretary General's eyes glowed with defiance. He scooped me up by the chest and propped my paws around his neck. The reptile's maw hung agape for several seconds. The dilation of its eyes made my grip tighten. I imagined it was contemplating how I'd look on a carving station.
Why is that feeble animal not cowering?
Isif asked at last.
You have your food loose in your ship?
My ears pinned against my head. Fuck you, scaly wretch. I hope you rot in a furnace. The Arxor leaned back and placed a spindly arm beneath its snout. I was surprised it didn't return the insult or lobby vulgar threats at my race. The way it flashed its teeth reminded me of the Terran's amused expression. Then again, perhaps it was the display of appetite that we used to interpret that as. Maya sighed.
Tava, meet Isif. Isif, meet Tava. Excellent. Now everyone is acquainted.
His name is irrelevant. It is lesser. Explain yourself quickly, human.
The chief hunter snarled.
Sure, that's easy. If you want positive relations with the UN, cease all hostilities with the Venal Republic.
The human bared his teeth in a confident smile.
Also release every Venal in your custody. We will compensate you double the cattle's weight in fresh meat, so food is not an issue.
Aye, you have some nerve. Why would we relinquish our right to such delicacy? Why would this be the entire basis of your terms?
The Venal are our partners. You recognize the value of sowing division within the Federation, and having sources with access to their information. You also know what a powerful ally we could be. Sparing one species isn't that important in the grand scheme of things.
Isif cast a ferocious glare at me, but I managed to meet its gaze. The Arxor could not harm me through the screen. This could be my only chance to confront a monster, and I wanted it to know that Venla were not just inferior creatures. My courage seemed to cement his decision. A growl rumbled in the soulless predator's throat.
We heard you took Arxor captives during our unfortunate clash in Godget space. Add them to your end, and we have an agreement. Unless you killed them. In that case, there won't be any deals today.
I accept those terms. For the record, we don't kill surrendering prisoners. It's not strategical.
Maya replied.
We're glad to hear that. How do you wish to complete this transaction?
Bring the captives, alive, to the abandoned Venlo colony I just sent you. We'll give you the code to a storage satellite, once you've left the prisoners unharmed. The exchange will be arranged a month from now.
That is acceptable.
I blinked in amazement, unable to believe my ears. Had the Arxor hunter agreed to release all of our livestock that easily? My instinct suggested that it had to be deception. For all of Maya's poised words, I couldn't fathom the benefit to the enemy. The logistics of reintegrating millions of traumatized Venlil and trying to explain that our greatest allies were warlike predators daunted me too. That was on top of the projected millions of Terran refugees we needed to find a place for. Perhaps the Greys agreed to release the cattle because they realized the burden it would place on our infrastructure. The humans' judgment will be sound. You can discuss this with their generals later if they have the time.
The Secretary General scowled at the camera. You try anything on the Venlil, we blow the satellite up. Also, We have a rough estimate of how many cattle you have, so don't try to cheat us.
Isif snorted.
Cheat you? I am extending my claw in friendship. But your request will take considerable effort, and it's inevitable that some mewling vendel will slip through the cracks.
I understand,
Maya muttered.
Thank you for your time, Chief Hunter. I hope our information serves you well.
Yes, the misplaced assets have been passed along. Why'd you not just ask for our help stopping their attack?
Because I have no guarantee you wouldn't just destroy your competitor.
Ha! Destroy you? If we wanted that, you would already be dead.
Something about the Arxor's tone sent a chill down my spine. That didn't sound like an empty threat. The reptile was certain that it could fulfill that goal if it desired. A predator's bluster wasn't usually so nonchalant and dismissive. Maya raised his eyebrows.
I beg your pardon?
We squeezed Earth's location out of some cattle, the scholarly types. Learned a lot about your species, your violence.
Isif chuckled.
Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying this to threaten you, but that should prove we won't attack.
I see.
The human's complexion reverted to its ashen state, and concern flashed in his pupils.
Why are you so interested in befriending us?
You're the most exciting thing to happen to this galaxy in a long time. We searched for other true sapiens for centuries. It's a shame the prey found you before us.
The Secretary General stared at the screen, unable to formulate a response. The excitement of finding fellow predators clearly wasn't mutual. The last thing the humans needed was another genocidal enemy scoping out Earth. That made it much tougher for this partnership to be a temporary stopgap.
Don't look so glum. I'm told the Federation tried to kill humanity in its nest. We are the same. That clinging rodent is more likely to harm you than us, Isif declared.
My eyes narrowed. I have never lifted a claw against the humans, Predator. You don't know me. The Arxor curled his lips.
Oh, but I do, Dinner. You Federation hypocrites are all the same. Have a safe ride home, humans. I'll see you around.
The video call ended, and Maya helped me climb down from his back. The Secretary General looked shaken to his core. That final revelation wormed into his skull and escalated his concerns for his home. I hoped I hadn't aggravated the situation, but the way the reptilian spoke to me was maddening. That conversation hadn't inspired any optimism for Earth's future. At least, not in my book. It was dubious whether the Grey would fulfill its stated bargain as well. Whatever the humans desired from that engagement, I hoped they got it.